How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to build this car. It's an object avoiding car with an ultrasonic sensor on it. It's really cool, easy to build, not too complicated. The code will be provided in the description. If you have any other questions, ask them in the comments, and let's get right into it with the things we need. So here are the things you're going to need. You will need a screwdriver with a plus sign. You will need a wire cutter to cut the wires out for the motor. You will need two 3D printed parts. These are relatively the same thing. The only difference is that this one doesn't have the square. This is the base. This is the top part. The battery will go here. 4 motors, the spaces are cut out over here. That's what this 3D printed part is. You don't need a 3D printer to make this kind of part. The next thing are some wires. You will need a motor driver shield. I'm using this motor driver shield, which is the L298 something. I'm not sure what this is called. This is the Arduino Uno, a breadboard. I'm using a small breadboard because there's no space for a big one, and it's not necessary to use a big one. A 6-volt battery or 5 AA batteries. It doesn't really matter which one you use. 4 of these motors, 4 gearbox motors, and 4 gearbox motor wheels. An ultrasonic sensor, and I have this ultrasonic sensor holder. It came with the sensor. You don't need this either. It's not necessary. It's optional. And a servo motor. We'll be starting off with the top part and all the electronics except for the motor and the ultrasonic sensor. So you're gonna flip this top part off and you'll get this flat surface with the square over here. Never cover up the square. This is where the battery wire is gonna go through. So the Arduino Uno is gonna come in this corner up here. The breadboard is gonna come right behind the Arduino Uno like this. The shield is gonna come here. You have to make sure that these 2 ports and these 3 ports are open. So the black part, the cooling head, goes towards the back. Or you can put it anywhere from here to here. Just don't cover this up. So now you have to get the other 3D printed piece without the square. And you have to put this battery in like this. Now my battery fits in perfectly. Depending on the type of battery you're using, it might not fit in it. But in this case my battery does. You can see that the little square or the rectangle is matching where the wire is. The wire is over here. This thing will just go up here and come down like this. So first I'm going to glue the motors onto the base. So I'll be gluing the motors on over here with the wheels on. Then I'll just put this on top and it should be done. But before I do that, I have to explain some of the wiring. For these 2 motors, you can see that the black wire is on top and the motor corresponding to that one has the black wire at the bottom. Same thing with the red wire, it's at the top, and then this one is the bottom. And on this side, the red wire is on the top. So these 2 are also opposite. So remember, when you connect the wires, these 2, they're flipped over. These 2 are 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 the same. So the black wire is on top. The black wire over here is on top. The red wire here is on top, and the red wire here is on top. These 2 are opposite. These 2 are opposite. So you have to remember that when you connect the wires on. After this, you can just connect the black wire with the black wire and the red wire with the red wire. But before we do that, we have to connect this base onto it. Okay, so the next step is to connect these 2 wires together. So the black wire goes with the black wire, the red wire goes with the red wire like this. And the same thing on this side. The black wire goes with the black one, the red one goes with the red one. And then we'll connect them in here. So I'll just quickly do that. So now it's time to get onto the wiring. Over here I put the red wire onto the right side and the black wire onto the left side. Now the red wires on the right side, the same thing has to be. So these 2 have to be parallel to each other. The red one, if the red one's on top, then this side on the red one has to be on top as well. And same thing with the black one. You can flip them around, you can put them on the other one. It doesn't really matter in which direction you put it on. That might mess around with turning left and right and we might replace them. But that doesn't really matter too much. You can fix that later as well. Just make sure that these 2 are parallel to each other. And same thing with the black ones. Now it's time to move on to the wiring of the servo motor because the servo motor has the least amount of wires. So for the servo motor, we're going to get 3 of these smaller wires that have both pins extended. They have pins on both sides of them. We're going to connect these pins onto the servo motor like this. I have tied up the servo motor wire like this so it takes up less space and looks neater. But yeah, you don't have to do that. That doesn't make a difference with the wiring or anything. The color of the wire doesn't matter either, which is why I'm using random colors. Okay, so after you connect the wires on like this, now we're going to ignore these colors, okay? So now, from now on, I'm going to refer to the color of the wires with these 3 colors. Brown, orange, and yellow. or brown, red, and yellow. Brown being the GND, orange being the 5 volts, and the yellow being this, and yellow being the signal pin. So we're gonna connect this like this. But before we connect any of these wires on, we're gonna have to make two very simple connections, and those are with the Arduino and the breadboard. We're gonna use this slightly longer wire. Now it doesn't matter, it's better if it's shorter, which is why I'm gonna tie in a little knot right here. So like this should be fine. And we're gonna connect the black wire on the GND and the white wire on the 5 volts. So here's one GND over here, and the 5 volt supply is right next to it, like that. And these two are just gonna connect on over here. Once again, the color of the wire does not matter at all. So there, just like that. The GND is on the right side and the 5 volt is on the left side. Now what we're going to do with the servo motor, we're going to connect the brown wire, which in this case is the blue one. So this is the GND. We're going to connect this one onto the black wire, or we're going to connect on the extended side of the breadboard that's in front of the black wire, like that. The middle wire, or in this case the orange wire, or the white wire, will go onto the white wire over here, which is the 5 volt supply right here. The last wire, which is the source pin, which is the yellow one on both sides, is going on digital pin number 10. The digital pins are over here, and they're named right here. We're going to put this on digital pin number 10, which is 2 above this second side, right there. That is the servo motor done. Now we're going to move on to the ultrasonic sensor. We're gonna get this type of wire. It has a pin on one side and no pin on the other side. So the side that has no pins, we're going to connect this onto the side of the ultrasonic sensor that has pins, right here. It doesn't have to be in any specific order. The wire all the way on the right side is the 5 volt supply. It's also called VCC. This is the brown wire. The brown wire is going to go on the VCC, which is the 5 volt supply, which is on the left side, back here. Right there, not the last side, not all the way on the right, just on the left. The next wire we're going to do is the GND, which over here is the yellow wire. The yellow wire extends all the way up to here. This is going to go on the right side. So this is the GND. There, that's the VCC and the GND done. The next two wires are these two, the red and orange one. We're going to first do the red one, which is the trig pin. The trig pin goes on analog pin number 1. Analog pin number 1 is right here next to analog pin number 0 on the top right side of the Arduino, or the bottom left. No, or the bottom right, doesn't really matter. The next pin is the last pin, which is the echo pin. This over here is the orange wire. This is going to go on analog pin number 2. Analog pin number 2 is right here next to analog pin number 1. So these two are going to go right next to each other, like that. That's the ultrasonic sensor done. We can connect the ultrasonic sensor back on the servo motor, right here, like that. Now those two are done. Then we're going to move on to the last part, which is the motor driver shield. The next step we're going to do is the motor driver shield. This motor driver shield is the L298N motor driver shield. It's not the 88 fruit one. That one is a bit different. That one's easier to use. So yeah, we're going to be connecting this one on with these 4 wires. We're just going to put them on. Same thing with the ultrasonic sensor. Put them on right next to each other, like this. So now we're going to hold the wire like this. We have this connected right here. We're going to keep it in order. These wires go onto digital pin number 7, 6, 5, and 4. We're just going to hold them like this straight. I'm going to put them down. Now you can't really go wrong with the order. If you do, you can just always flip the wires around. So in this case, if you connect the wires on upside down like this, you can just flip it over. As long as it's in line and you can put your finger like this without having any knots in or without any twists and turns, it should be fine. The last part of the wiring are these 3. Now these 3 wires are really important. If you don't connect them properly, then the whole thing won't work and you'll be really confused. So now we put 3 wires in over here. It doesn't have to be in any order, or the color doesn't have to be any specific color for the wires. Just make sure they're like this and tighten them on. So this purple one all the way on the right goes on to our extended GND route, which is over here. This purple one, the one all the way on the right, goes over here to the 5V area, right over here. The one on the right that we told you guys about earlier, it's on the right side, right there. That's the 5 volts. The middle one is GND. Now this GND doesn't go on the rail we extended over here. Instead, this GND goes all the way over here on the Arduino's GND. Right there, I think this is one GND's. And this is the last wire, which goes on a 5-volt supply. Now this 5-volt supply is right over here. From this last GND, I was having trouble seeing it because of all the wires. And there, that's about it. If you turn on if you turn it on by connecting the battery wires in, then it should work.
Wire diagram for the car.